In this video, we're going to be going over the small and simple setup that you would use when you're elevated in a press box or a crow's nest and you don't need a high pod. High pods are a good way to get that tall shot when there is no press box, but if there is one, that's definitely the better shot to go for. And you'll find the press box on the home side of the field at the top of the spectator stands. Some of them have crow's nests, which are fenced areas at the top or to the side of the press box. Some of them don't, so you just decide whether you want to shoot from inside the press box or in the crow's nest. Access points vary. Sometimes you get to them through the spectator stands and sometimes there's stairways. This one is by far the worst that I've ever seen. Yours is probably going to be more safe than this. If you haven't fallen to your death by the time you get to the press box, you can actually start to set up your equipment. Now, you'll only need three things for this, really. We've got the tripod, the camera, and the external battery. For those of you who have a high pod setup, a lot of this equipment you won't be using. You won't be using your wired remotes, you won't be using your motorized head, you won't be using the monitor, you won't be using any of that. You only need the tripod, which would normally be used for the monitor on the high pod setup. You need the camera, and you need the external battery. That's it. At least a day before your shoot, you're going to want to charge your external battery for your camera. Here we have our external battery on the right. You can ignore the ones on the left. We don't use those for these kinds of shoots. And also keep in mind that your external battery might be different from this one. To charge this particular model, you'll need a micro USB cable and a wall adapter. You'll plug it into the micro USB port on the side of the battery. You're not using the normal USB ports that you can see on the left side of the battery. Those will be used when you actually plug the battery into the camera. You'll know the battery's charging when you see a blinking light. In this case, the battery is charged 57%. Now that we've got the tripod situated in a good spot with a clear view, we can go ahead and take out our battery from the pack. We'll plug in the normal USB cable, not the micro USB cable, into one of the sockets, and we'll put it back into the bag. And this is something that will be different for everybody since there are so many different tripods out there. You'll want to put on your battery pack bag so that it's kind of situated right under the camera. And this will be before you actually put the camera onto your tripod, because if you do it after, it might not be able to fit. And you might not even need to do this depending on your situation. With me up in the press box here, there's a table, and I could probably put it onto the table and still have the cable reach the camera just fine, but this is just for demonstration. Sometimes you'll be setting up the tripod on the ground and raising it up to standing level. In that case, you definitely have to fasten the bag somewhere on your tripod that's safe and secure. And once you do that, you can fasten the tripod boot or the plate onto the camera and then slide it on. I'm going to give you a closer look at actually plugging the battery into the camera. This is from a different training video, but it's a better and closer look. You'll go ahead and feed this cable through the hand strap, and you'll plug it into the cable at the back of the camera that's just kind of permanently fastened on there. And once the camera starts getting powered by the external battery, you should be able to see that orange light on there. You'll want to make sure that the battery is actually charging the camera, and you can make sure of that by looking at the screen of the camera. If you see that battery icon in the upper right hand corner, that means it's not charging. So you'll want to make sure to plug everything in until it disappears. With that being done, now would be a good time to check a couple settings on your camera. And you want to do this before your first game for every shoot that you go on. And there are really only two things that you need to check. The first thing is to go to the menu and then to Setup and then to Format. This will clear out all of the videos that were on the SD card before so that you have plenty of room for your shoot. Now, of course, you'll only want to do this once, or else you'll start deleting your footage that you shot that same day before you can even upload it. And since you delete your SD card every shoot that you do, you should definitely keep a backup of your games for about 2 weeks. Next, you'll go back to the main menu and go over to image quality and size. For that first option there, you want to make sure that you're on the highest quality. And it should already be there, but if it's not, switch it to it. The last thing you would want to do is make sure that your shot is clear. In the press box, there's a lot of things that can block your shot when you're trying to get to the left or the right side of the field. You definitely want to open the window and shoot through when you can. If the window's closed, you're going to get a reflection. It's probably not going to work. It's best to open a window if you can. When you're in the press box, balancing your tripod is very important. You'll want to set your tripod next to the window with the 2 legs facing outward, but the problem with this is that it can topple forward pretty easily. You definitely don't want that to happen. So here's a couple things that you can do to balance it better. When the battery pack is hanging in the center of the tripod, that's definitely a great counterweight to keep it secure. Another thing you can do is slightly raising the front 2 tripod legs. In this case, I'm actually lowering the back one, and you can see that just a small adjustment like that makes a huge difference. That thing's not toppling over easily. And with that, you're set up and ready to go.